This is the City Sites Podcast with Larry Kutzler.
One of the greatest disappointments in my life is the lack of integrity I see displayed by those who claim the name of Christ. Integrity, of course, is the core of character. It is the basis for relationship building and the substance of trust. You cannot trust people who do not have integrity.
Integrity has two parts. And the first way is the way most of us understand it. Part A is the quality of being honest, having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. This is about honesty, good character, and being trustworthy. This aspect of integrity usually becomes visible when we are honest, tell the truth, and have good character in difficult situations. The second part is even more interesting to me. Part B is the state of being whole and undivided. This is about our internal unity and coherence. In other words, if you've ever been conflicted about your actions and decisions and thoughts, when it came to your beliefs and morals, that may be a signal that you're not feeling whole and undivided inside. If you feel confused or torn about where you stand, that's another signal that you have some internal unity and coherence issues. You haven't settled it yet. And really, the presence or absence of integrity on the inside like this is where it starts. Our inner world drives our outward actions.
Today I want to address one of the biggest disappointments when dealing with relationships between believers and Christian leaders. It has to do with the integrity of honesty, clarity, and respect. I want to read a couple of scripture verses that fit into what I'm about to say today. Romans 12:10 says, "Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other." Meanwhile, Philippians 2:3 says, "Do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves." I would like to start with honesty in response to these two verses. Honesty is a word that is at the heart of integrity. Integrity defined is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. Honesty is hard for most of us to execute on because there are times we just don't want to be honest with people about situations where we have personality issues and where hidden agendas are present. We all hold back information that we deem is private or damaging to our relationships. Yet, being direct with the information that is public and in open discussion, we must address the honesty factor in our communications. For example, I have had relationships with Christian leaders to perform specific audio or video work, and in many of these cases I've had long-standing relationships with them. But as times and economics change, ministries need to pivot, as they say, and move in a different direction. This pivot is understandable. What isn't understandable is how the new course of action is communicated. No one will argue that change is inevitable in our world, but it is how we handle those changes as it concerns our vendors, employees, and ministry supporters that is important. Handling change in honesty means we communicate with those we are in relationship with the honest truth about the changes that are being made. Rarely have I had this kind of relationship where I was honored with information that brought me along with those making a change to an amiable conclusion. I realize there's often private information that cannot be disclosed to the public on why changes are being made, but we must always recognize that integrity starts by how we honor those we work with as it concerns the changes in the partnership. As a Christian and working in relationship with others, whether it is in the church or the marketplace, honesty should be foremost in how we communicate with each other. It's just good character. Clarity is the other word I often find missing in how we communicate.
Clarity is the quality or condition of being clear and easy to understand. And there is a great power in clarity. Our everyday lives become busier and busier, and that makes things confusing and hard to deal with. Having clarity in your life can improve your productivity and ensure that you're working towards the right things in your life. So let's start with the bigger picture. First, you need to be crystal clear about what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve. If you don't get this step right, then everything else will be difficult. How can you take any actions if you don't know what you want to achieve?
Clarity can only happen when two people or a group of people are all on the same page. Everyone understands the directives, the objectives, and are given a clear path to accomplishing what they do together. I have been guilty of repeating myself in situations where I need to make sure clarity is of value in what we do. So often, we have set objectives as a group only to discover we were not clear in the expectations of them. I would say that clarity is the most important element in accomplishing any goal or objective as a group. People think and process information differently, and this difference can be the reason why so many goals are not met. Primarily because we are not clear on the results. Clarity for the church is imperative because it is what we do. We present the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, and that must be as clear as it can be all the time. Clarity must be of value in all relationships, all partnerships, and in all agreements between people. Respect. Now, this was a word that defines the character of the people you are around.
Here's the definition I'd like us to work with. Respect is first and foremost, it's an active process. This is going to be a roll-up-your-sleeves proposition with one another. And it's an active process of non-judgmentally engaging people. And if we're really committed to this, we're going to do this with people from all backgrounds. That means that some people, if they're only a little bit different, it's not going to be all that much work because we're going to have a lot more common ground. But there will be some people who are very different, and their instruction manuals are going to be thick. And to them, yours is going to be equally thick. But if we're really committed to this as an organization, we're going to make that investment in one another. Why? Because fundamentally, we increase our awareness of one another, and we increase our effectiveness and efficiency at working with one another. Now, help me understand this. Why do you think we naturally tend to work more effectively with people that we know better? Why? It makes us more predictable around one another. And of all the things that allow us to work effectively, it's predictability. See, the human brain, in fact, this is one of the reasons why our species rose to the top of the food chain. We were able to out-predict the future of any other species. So we could kind of anticipate what was going to happen next. The more that you know me and I know you, the more we can anticipate how each other is going to act and react in different situations. And with that knowledge, we are able to get things done. We're able to take shortcuts with each other that allow us to get things done much more quickly. And that's the real value in that. We actually become more effective because we become more predictable around one another.
Respect is an honor you give to people because it is your calling as a Christian to respect all that God has created. Respect means you give preference to other people by listening to them and considering their input as important as yours when it comes to the relationship. Respect means you go the second mile to make the relationship work, be fruitful and multiply, beneficial for all parties. That doesn't mean you never disagree, but it does mean you disagree in a respectful manner. These three best describes the character of integrity for me because it allows for relationships to breathe and have independence and yet have agreement. The bottom line is you honor people as God honors us. No one is beyond his scope of love and forgiveness, and that is true for us as well. Integrity in relationships is much like manners in general. We have become a crass and rude society and care even less about how my attitude or behavior affects other people. As Christians, our calling card is not about us at the end of the day. Our purpose is not to present ourselves, but we are ambassadors for the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So let's begin a new day of honesty, clarity, and honor into everything we do.
What is the biggest challenge that is going to face Christians in the future? That could be a big question with a very long answer, but let me trim it down to this. Two things matter to the Christian: doctrine and duty. Let me say it another way: character and conviction. What you have to advance the kingdom, what you have to fight off the trends in the world, to be triumphant over personal temptation, to not get caught up in the corruption of the world, in the dive that this world is into the depths of sin and darkness. What you have to have are those two things. You have to have character. I'm talking about spiritual character. on the path to Christ-likeness, sanctification, virtue, devotion to Christ, faithfulness. That is essential if you're going to survive and make an impact for the kingdom. And look, that's being hammered and assaulted all the time as immorality becomes defined as acceptable. And the second thing is conviction. It's not going to be enough to sort of a placid, lightly understood view of Christianity. You won't survive. You're going to have some tests in the future on all levels in your relationships, in your job, in your interaction with friends. You're going to have some tests of what you will really live and die for.
Well, I like that from John MacArthur about character and conviction. As I said earlier, for me, honesty and clarity and respect are three words that really are my convictions about character, because you have to have honesty in all things that you do, in all of your relationships. You've got to be honest. There's no skirting honesty when it comes to trust and having solid, wholesome relationships. You have to be honest with people. Clarity, you have to be clear on where you're going, what are your thoughts, what are your intentions, what are your agreements, what are the things that are important to you. Clarity is critical, essential to relationship building. And of course, respect. How do you respect people? How do you respect those that you disagree with? How do you respect those that are not of your kind or of your culture? How do you respect people who vehemently oppose you? Respect is very, very important. It all comes down, as John said earlier, about the character of Christ, the godliness, the forming of your mind and heart after Christ. That's what's important when we talk about this issue of character. Is my character that of Christ? Is Christ's character working in me to be more like Him? It's a great challenge, and I'm thankful that you joined us today for the City Sites Podcast. We hope to see you next time.
We have all heard the saying, keep the main thing the main thing. When we apply that to Jesus Christ, He is the main thing. There hasn't been anyone like Him in history, and He has contributed more to humanity than all contributors combined. He is the main thing.
Thank you for joining us today. Every Friday we bring you this podcast with interviews with people who are challenging the status quo of Christianity and challenging the cultural norms of our day. Please help us get the word out by sharing the link to this podcast with your online friends and family. Our website also contains other podcasters who are part of the City Sites network of communicators, all sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. Our website is citysitesurbanmedia.com.